Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body, because I am more than physical matter. I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world.
But the teachers are alive. They're not books. They are the very living essences of nature itself.
Unbelievably powerful supercomputer that's running our reality, and we don't have a clue as to how to operate it.
Turn in a little bit and get that motor pump up. Pop! Net caller!
The best in music and talk, broadcasting from Daytona Beach, A1A, and across the World Wide Web. This is Fringe FM, high vibrations, far out frequencies.
Do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. Do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I am the void walker.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting live from Daytona Beach, Florida. This is Lighting the Void, and I'm your host, Joe Roop, and we are live on Fringe FM. Once again, KTLK Digital Broadcasting. I believe it's Tuesday night, March the 21st. Happy Equinox, everybody. I hope you did your ceremonies. I hope you prepared for the spring and this initiative for us that we're about to go through. Tonight, I have Chris Mathieu from Forbidden Knowledge News is here with us once again. I was just on his show, and I thought, why not continue the conversation and have him over here talking to us on Lighting the Void. And we're going to get into some of the stuff that he's doing as well. And see, like tomorrow night, I believe Anthony Tyler's supposed to come back on. We had to reschedule that because the Friday night thing got a little messed up. Then Thursday, our lovely animal communicator Melanie Grubbs will be back on, and then we'll start this round of stuff again. And it's pretty jam-packed. I think we got a couple of guests already booked for next week, and it's been pretty exciting. The show's starting to kick up, and I love it. I love it. We've been doing this, man, since 2016, and I've not gotten tired of it yet. Not in total. And I think that's a good sign. So if you want to check out also the shop, we kind of redid the whole shop at the Fringe FM. So there's even some LTV stuff there. We got a really killer t-shirt there from the Deep Void that has the design that Amanda did. But we got the whole, like, it's all, you know, it's cool. You got to go check it out. Especially if you're a Deep Void member, you're gonna want to sport that. But go to fringe.fm and check out the new shop. We're still working on putting more stuff in there. But you can also go to fringefm.shop too as well. So I'm excited about tonight's show because this guy, I don't know, I got kind of a connection to him in a sense because it's not, I think it has something to do with maybe we're kind of do this stuff for the same reasons. And it's only a matter of time before you see this guy doing even bigger things. Now, he's the host and creator of Forbidden Knowledge News and the Forbidden Knowledge Network, and he graduated at Full Sail University with a degree in digital media and was later an editor at his local television station for 2 years. And in 2016, he started a Facebook page called Forbidden Knowledge News just as a blog to share the information he was learning during his awakening. And as the blog became more popular, he started a YouTube channel and wanted to bring his favorite researchers, authors, and guests onto the scene, and eventually became a talk show and podcast, which has featured some really, really awesome guests. And he also has the Forbidden Knowledge Network, which is now a podcast network that features creators, researchers, and authors just like himself on the podcast network, too. And I hear, Chris, and thanks for coming on the broadcast, that you're getting beefed up to go down a documentary journey. I hear.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much once again for having me on your lovely show. Always a great time here, man. Yeah, gearing up for a trip here. It's a long time in the making. I've been planning this for a long time. I was supposed to get started last year, but things happen. We are, completely self-funded. We don't have big boner pill or mattress sponsors or anything like that. So we go off of donations sometimes, and we really needed some donations. Luckily we got a few last year. We're able to get some equipment to get this stuff going, and hopefully we'll get some more for travel funds this year. We've gotten a few, and we're very grateful for everything we've gotten. We hope to get a little bit more support along the way as we get this going, but it's going to be a docu-series. We're going to break it up into different sections here. The first section we're doing is a kind of origin story, a FKN origin story. I'm going to take the audience back to my hometown in South Louisiana and explore some of the local lore around there, some plantations, haunted areas. We're also going to stop in a couple of places in Texas along the way, get some Daily Plaza footage for the JFK section of the docuseries. I also have a little Bigfoot cryptid expedition lined up in northern Louisiana with one of my buddies and a Bigfoot experiencer, Scott Pace. And we hope to even talk with, some of my audience and local experiencers and witnesses and people who know about local lore along the way. And along with integrating some of my previous interviews and some of the previous productions that I've done with brilliant researchers and writers and authors and people who are experts in their field of the different topics that I'm going to be covering, everything from paranormal, ufology, hidden history, conspiratorial events, anything interesting that I find along my journeys. And like I said, the first stop is going to be South Louisiana and surrounding areas in the Gulf South. I think that we are going to save the Southeast for another time, but we're going to do Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, definitely. And we'll cover a few hot spots in those areas. And then the next section will be within a few months. Hopefully, we're going to hit the West next within this year. But I hope to have the first episode out within a few weeks of returning from our first trip. And we plan to spend a little over a week down in South Louisiana getting some footage and interviews and stuff like that.
I hope you catch something live, bro, like a real Bigfoot.
Oh, man.
That would be cool.
That would be ideal. That would be the best. That would be better than any documentary I've ever seen, man. They always go chasing the stuff and never get it. But yeah, I'm not expecting to, but it would be a wonderful thing. And yeah, we're just going to have a good time with it. And hopefully we'll have some amazing content for you guys by the end of it. And it'll just be not only a documentation of our travels and those hotspots that I was saying, but just getting to know me and my crew a little bit better and where I'm from and integrating my experiences into it. So it's going to be a good experience.
Yeah, I want to apologize too. We had a little sound cut out at the beginning because Joe does this sometimes. He hit the wrong button. Okay, so go to the website, like as you're listening to the show, forbiddenknowledge.news, and check out the network and the radio show, and also go to the Fringe FM shop. Those are the big two things I wanted to promote today because we got new gear up in there, up in that shop. You can also go to fringefm.shop. So, listen, man. You know what would make you big? What would actually make you like big is if you catch something legit. Like I've seen some pretty convincing, like cryptid stuff. But I'll be honest with you, some of the most like interesting stories that I've heard from you had to do with your experiences in consciousness. Like the last time you were on the show, like you were hearing voices talking about know that you're being deceived and all kinds of like what. The hell, man. You know, like that's probably one of the craziest stories I've ever heard, honestly, man.
Yeah, man. Like I hope that we can have something, experience something, something, maybe catch something on film. Like I said, I don't have any expectations.
Sure, yeah, sure.
But you know, I have had, like I said, my own recent experiences in consciousness, and it's opened up my perspective to a lot of different possibilities. Hell, before I started doing this podcast, I never even had what I would consider as anything paranormal. Now, looking back, I had some pretty crazy sleep paralysis experiences where, looking back, it might have been a little something more than just the scientific explanation of what they're saying sleep paralysis is. And I've had a lot of missing time as a child. I don't know if this is a normal thing. I hear a lot of other people talking about missing time as children, but it seems like I missed most of my childhood. And I don't think I had that many like really traumatic events happen that would cause me to block that out. But other than that, nothing really paranormal happened until I started doing my own consciousness explorations, till I started meditation.
Yeah.
And it was after the meditative experience where I made my first contact with what I understand is my spirit guides, that these guys told me about not only healing childhood trauma to succeed and getting, you know, past some of the blockages I had, but using psychedelics to speed up the process a little bit and initiate easier contact with what I understand is my spirit guides. And they've taught me a lot of things along the way. My relationship with these guys has become very beneficial, and it's not like they're telling me things about future events or the world's going to end or we need to clean up the environment or aliens are on the way or World War III is going to happen or anything like that. It's just about my own bettering myself, getting myself in a better position, spiritually evolving myself in my consciousness, getting rid of childhood traumas, taking care of things that I need to, and removing blockages and roadblocks to my own success. And this is one of the things that for me is a confirmation that I'm dealing with something beneficial and not like a deceptive demon that's trying to send me on the wrong path. No, everything that I've learned from these guys has been incredibly beneficial, and I owe everything. I owe everything to where I'm at right now to listening and understanding or having a better relationship with these spiritual guides.
Like some kind of so when I talked to you last time, these guides were like they appeared to be, and your understanding like frog-like, right? Were they like frog-like?
They were hybrids. They had all kinds of different animal hybrid etheric type beings. They appeared in little robes. They all had these green looking robes on. They were all kind of etherically green looking, a little transparent, but they were definitely humanoid animal hybrid entities, and they looked rather small. They looked to be only, in my perception, in my kind of subconscious vision through these meditative experiences, they seemed to be smaller than what my perspective was. I don't know. It could have been just the way they presented themselves to me in my meditative state. But they had like a bird being, they had a frog being, the one that really communicated with me more than others besides my main spirit guide that I called Laird, who just really always appeared to me as a blue light, nothing more than just a manifestation of beautiful blue light. But the other guides, they did appear as these little hybrid beings, everything from bird to like a frog to even looked like hairy Chewbacca beings or bear beings or something like that, but they all look to be animalistic type in nature.
Do you ever think that they showed up like that? Just trying, maybe it was like, maybe they're like, well, maybe he'll understand this form or something.
Yeah, because at the time I was like super into. I was like, by the time I thought I was communicating with extraterrestrials, I was super into the Anunnaki mythos and the possibility that they were making chimeras, like aliens came to our ancient civilizations. And that's how we got modern man, as these extraterrestrial civilizations kind of mess with our DNA, and they may have been hybrid beings themselves. And that was kind of running through my consciousness at the time, and possibly because at the same time I made my first contact with these entities, second contact, is I was in my tub, but in the meditative state, I was on a ship. It looked like a spaceship. I could see out the windows. I could see space. There were multiple levels, and these beings were like animal human hybrids that I had been kind of looking at and into and speaking with different researchers with at the time. I have a completely different understanding of what those beings are. I believe they are completely spiritual or metaphysical beings that are connected to me in some way since my birth, for my whole life, either what we could say spirit guides, ancestors, higher self, a spiritual part of ourselves that may not be just our own consciousness, but something outside of ourselves that guides us. Even if you want to call it angels, I don't have a true understanding other than my own of what this is. But back then I thought it was extraterrestrials. For the very longest time, I thought I was communicating with ETs, and that perspective changed after learning more about just from different perspectives and having my own further experiences with it.
Yeah. That's fascinating. All of this though was kind of induced by meditation and being a bit of a psychonaut, I would think, right?
It started out with meditation. The first few experiences were all through meditation. It took a lot of work though. It took a lot of relaxation techniques, meditation tones. Water for some reason helped for me a lot. It even helped with later experiences in different ways. Seemed to be like a conductor of sorts. But I was instructed by my guides if I wanted to take a fast track to healing and getting myself into a better consciousness state and understanding the nature of my own reality, to that's magic mushrooms and certain plant medicines were a way to do so. And so that's when I was picking up and moved from South Louisiana to Denver, Colorado, and started growing my own magic mushrooms. And that's when I had my other induced experiences that were much more powerful. Like they said, the communication was much easier, and it was almost instantaneous every time I would be under the effects of psilocybin, that my guides would show up and we'd start having conversations about things. And it would always be the same type of loving feeling that would envelop me whenever they would show up for our meetings that we have.
Dude, I don't know why. Does it feel like to you that I keep asking you about the same story every time you come on?
Oh no, it's all good, man. Yeah, we've talked about it a few times, but there's plenty different angles to explore.
Well, that's because I'm so fascinated with it, I think. But you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a Michael Newton's book, The Journey of Souls, right? But these people were under like massive hypnosis, and he would take them into life between lives, and they would meet these beings that would wear robes. And like, did these beings have like any symbols that they were wearing?
I wish I would have paid more attention or been able to perceive anything further than that. No, it was very dreamlike, and the details were a little fuzzy. All I could tell was basically what they were presenting themselves as. And there's so many layers to this. So many people have different types of experiences with etheric types of beings and altered states or meditative states. And these beings always appear as something different or something that we can collectively understand. We collectively understand what a gray alien is. A lot of people have meditative experiences with these things will show up, or we collectively know what some of these ancient deities were, some deities from antiquity, like Vishnu, that people have encountered in meditative experiences, Buddha, ascended masters, things like that. It's amazing to me how similar many of the experiences could be, but also how different and how personal most of these experiences are. And when we get into the experiences that aren't personal and the ones that are trying to give people information about, like what I was saying earlier, that they weren't giving me, like world events, political events, where we're supposed to go in the future, how we're supposed to take care of our environment, if World War III is about to happen, prophetic events. Those are the ones that I not really question, but I really am more discerning about, and I tend to be more cautious about these individuals. These are what you would call channelers that come out with this information about the collective, about others besides their own personal development. That always gets me questioning things, because I've seen it so many times where these channelers, these people who supposedly have contact with extraterrestrials, are either communicating with something that doesn't have their best interest in mind, or they have no idea what they're communicating with, or they're just doing, they're making up shit to get attention. But that's a different story altogether.
That could happen, right? So what? Well, we're at the bottom of the hour here, but I wonder, like, when you say guides, this is a big thing that people like. What's the practical reason to have a guide? Do they give you intuitive messages? Are they showing you things? I think we should talk a little bit about that when we come back here. But I think it's a cool subject, right? Like, I personally believe we all have something that something that's guiding us that we call divine. It could be guides. Some people say it's holy guardian angels. What I do know is that everybody has a different experience, it seems like.
And for me, it wasn't just guides for me. It was the synchromysticism that surrounded it, and the synchronicities and the messages of the universe. Yeah. The things that would occur on a daily basis that would send me messages and show me, hey, you need to be doing this. And it was such coincidence. It wasn't even things that you would call coincidence. It was so blatant that these were mystical messages and mystical occurrences that were meant for me to pay attention to them. Constant showing of the same numbers, songs that would come on at certain times that corresponded with certain things that I were doing.
I want to talk about that. That's a big one for me.
These synchronicities that are like the language of the universe.
That's a good point. Like, I definitely want to talk about that, because I'm pretty sure I know what you're saying. The song, like when a song, we don't even pay attention to the songs that come on. When we're asking the universe or whatever, even if we're asking ourselves questions, and songs come on and we don't even listen to the lyrics. Anyways, we'll get into that more. We're here with Chris Mathieu from the Forbidden Knowledge News, forbiddenknowledge.news. Stay with us. Well, we're definitely getting a little weird and strange tonight. We got the perfect guy on here to talk a little weird and strange and fringy. Why not? Chris Mathieu from forbiddenknowledge.news is here, and I'm going to rave it up a little bit with some Mal P. Listen, if you wanted to promote your podcast, your business, an event, anything, do it with the Fringe FM, because this is the new wave of stuff that's happening, right? High vibrations, far out frequencies. And even if Amazon and Twitter and Facebook, you didn't know this, did you, Chris? They're all starting their own little talk radio programs, but they're all hammering people with censorship. And we don't do that here. People can say whatever they want.
Yeah, it's pretty funny when we see how many of these larger corporate entities are like starting talk shows and podcasts that, you know what, not a damn person is listening to. I mean, really, the market is so saturated to begin with. And I think that the podcasting entertainment industry is shifting so much, and people are changing their interests in what they're listening to so much. They don't want the same old dribble and BS and fakery that's come out of what, you know, our past entertainment business. And people are going to more of, you know, alternative media, truth media, paranormal shows and things like that. So
you can't trust them.
Yeah, you can't, man. It's interesting to see what's happening though.
Well, I tried it out because Amazon has like this Amazon app, talk radio. So you have to download the app, and I think Twitter's doing the same thing. But you got to download the app, and then everybody has to use the app. So you can do a talk show and you can play licensed music, which I love music, but we play licensed music here, so whatever. And I was like, well, this is kind of cool. But then I got hit with all of these, like, here's the rules. I was like, the rules? Okay. You can't talk about certain subjects. You can't duck the music. You can't even talk over the music. And I'm like, this is stupid then. I don't want to do it. You know? I was willing to give it a shot, you know? But I don't want to do it. Like, radio's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be free and fun. And this is why we do it here, man. And that's what you're doing, too, at the podcast network. And I think that's cool as well, you know?
I think that's why part of the reason why people like myself and yourself become so successful is because we're doing it our own way, the way that we're enjoying it. And we're not following any stupid sort of corporate narratives or rules that it's like a playbook for success for certain entities that has become so drawn out and overplayed that it's not even successful anymore. That and by the way, people are way more successful doing things they enjoy anyway, and I think that's that's a huge part of my own success is being able to control my own creativity and being happy doing what I'm doing, because doing what I was doing before this was not happy at all.
Well, let me put it to you this way. Plus, I want to thank we just got a new partner on the Fringe FM. So Janari Crystal Creations, go check that out on Facebook. They got a massive, massive crystal store, and it's amazing. They do live sales on Facebook. It's amazing. So this is what I mean, bro. Like, we're going into a new age. We all got to help each other. We all got to rise together. We all got to fight. This is the only way to fight this like mainstream shizzle. If I can say that, shizzle my nizzle. That's what it is. It's shizzle. It's crap, you know. But the podcasting world has become big, and so what we were talking about before is you hearing, like, you called it synchronicity. Isn't that what you called it?
Synchromysticism.
Synchromysticism. I just butchered the hell out of that. I like to think of it as like the language the universe tries to communicate to us. And by the universe, I mean the forces of nature that surround us at all time. Whether you want to call it source, this energy that is unseen that guides us in certain direction. You asked earlier what a guide is to me, what these spirit guides are to me. Honestly, I couldn't tell you that I know for sure. But what my belief is that these are some sort of spiritual entities that are either possibly assigned to us at the time of our incarnation here, and they probably are available to us at all times and always have been. It's up to us
to discover them or ask for them to manifest to us. I know that for me, it wasn't until I went seeking my own spiritual path and something else, an understanding of something beyond myself, that they made themselves known to me. And I think that's the way it goes. I think we have to seek for these things. I think our ancient ancestors had a way better understanding of all of this and the afterlife. And I think it is connected to the afterlife. It's possibly even, there's many things that I consider. It could even be just us communicating with ourselves from outside of this reality, from outside of this matrix, this holographic simulation that we're in, whatever you want to call this existence that we're in. What if our spirit guides, or even any paranormal experience that, or profound spiritual experience that we have, that really sets us off on a profound path, a different path than we were going before, maybe that what we consider the true path or the right path? What if it's us outside of this existence that are nudging ourselves in certain directions? Like, think of it like a video game. If this is a Matrix type video game and we are just avatars here, but there are spiritual entities or light beings, or even say we're aliens outside of this, and we are controlling these avatars and trying to level up spiritually, trying to evolve our consciousness to the next level so that we can get out of this matrix or grow to the next level, or just return to what we are outside of this. There's many different theories. And the most depressing one is that we're trapped here, that there are like archonic entities feeding off of us somehow. And it's perpetual reincarnation to this existence so that they can perpetually feed off of us and give us hope that we can escape one day. But it's all about energetic feeding. So that's a kind of depressing way to look at it. I don't think it is that way. I consider it at times because I have many guests that talk about this stuff. But
well, there's people like I talked about it on your show, man. There's people that are into that stuff on the earth. You don't have to worry about it in the astral realm so much to speak as you do here. Like, there's people that study that stuff. We talked about that on your show, right? So like, it's a thing, but I don't want to like freak anybody out. But what I did want to talk about was the songs, right? Like, because this has happened to me on several occasions where I'm like, can you, like, I'll I don't know, do a prayer or something will happen in my life, right? And I'll just do a prayer and I'll say, look, I really need an answer to this, Like, if you're listening, usually when you come from like a really vulnerable or desperate place in your heart, as long as it's in your heart, you get answers. And I'll be damned if it's not like the moment I'm thinking about it, when a song comes on, the lyrics are telling you the answer, and it's not.
And
I
got to tell you about some.
You think it's psychosomatic, bro, but it's not, because it'll reaffirm it and reaffirm it. It's like, oh, you're speaking to me through every sense of vibration there is. Music, like songs, TV, animals. It's all a mirror,
Yes, dude. I think music and sound and vibration and frequency is a huge part of our reality that we interact with, and has a huge effect on our reality that we don't even realize. And that's why so many shamans and medicine men integrate sound and music into these plant medicine experiences that they offer people. Now, I've had my own, what I would consider even shamanic experiences with plant medicine and music, where I would have this amazing, incredible spirit journey, and the music would dictate where I would go. And it would not only dictate where I would go in my consciousness journey, it would answer questions for me. It would communicate, the music would literally communicate with me, with my consciousness during these plant medicine, these mushroom sessions that I'd have. I was able to not only channel some of the information that my guides were telling me, I'd ask questions, but it would be intertwined with the music that I was listening to. I would just put it on, not even a certain specific playlist, just a random multi-song, it would pick random artists, random songs and put them on. But amazingly enough, it would correspond to the questions I was asking, the information that I was channeling through my guides and through the entities that I would make contact with during these experiences. And it would be so synchronistic, like I said earlier. The messages would come through extremely clear in the music. And like I said, it was never really about outside things other than what I was doing with my life and where I was going and what I was doing with the show and what I should be looking at and researching and all the personal growth things that I was looking at during these sessions. And the information that I got from a combination of music and the messages that I was getting through my consciousness and communication with my spirit guides is everything that led me down the path that I'm going down now. So it's very crazy. And even when I wasn't having the psychedelic experiences, the music would guide me on a daily basis. Any music I was listening to, it would answer questions. It would come on at the right time. And not only music, people that I would need to talk to would either call me at the right time or send me messages at the right time with certain types of information that I would not necessarily be looking for at that moment, but really needed that information at that moment. And things like that happen on a daily basis. And if we're not paying attention to it, we will completely miss it. But I completely believe that this stuff happens all the time to guide us in certain directions, showing us certain numbers at certain times, certain music, like I said earlier, talking to certain individuals. It all guides us in a certain direction. If we're not paying attention, we're going to miss it, and we could be led in a completely different direction other than our most optimal. And I believe we have optimal timelines that we could be on. I believe that there are some that are lower density and maybe worse for us than others, and some are more beneficial and can lead us into, I would say, more contentment or happiness in our lives. And we have to pay attention to the messages the universe shows us so we can get there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, actually, man. But this is kind of a thing where I've had that song. I don't know why I'm so attached to the idea of that song thing, because I swear on everything that's happened to me probably 100 times in my life, or not even that. Like, I'm not talking about just like the high end getting messages from songs, but also, have you ever had this is another weird thing that happens. Like, have you ever had like a song in your head and that you were like listening to my head's like a jukebox, man. I got songs going in my head all the time that songs I don't even like are playing in my head sometimes.
Yeah.
So then one time I walked into the room and the song is playing on the radio before I even heard it, in sync with what was in my mind, right? Like, that can't be a coincidence. I wasn't even off like tempo with the song or anything. It was just...
That makes me think of some things that happen during our dreams, man. I had a creepy dream last year. It was with my ex-girlfriend. We were sleeping, and I was dreaming of a home invasion. And in this dream, these robbers, these two guys, tied us up in chairs, and they proceeded to start waterboarding us, pouring water over it, like put a blanket over our heads and started waterboarding us. And at the same time, the water hit my head in my dreams. My ex-girlfriend accidentally spilled water all over my head, like at the exact same moment. And I don't know if this is like, if the time frame in our dreams is so different than in our reality, that she poured the water before I even experienced any of this in my dream. And I processed it so quickly in my mind that I formed that whole dream of a home invasion with a waterboarding in the instant that she poured the water on my face. Or is something else going on? Some kind of precognitive connection to what's going to happen in our dreams, or are our dreams that prophetic to where they can tell us some of the things that happen in our reality. I don't remember many of my dreams these days, unfortunately. I still have them. I remember them occasionally, but I remember when I was a kid, I could remember very vivid dreams and some prophetic dreams. I would dream about some things that would happen the next day. I would be missing something and I would dream about where I lost it and where it was. So I think there's something to not only these synchronistic events and songs and music and occurrences, but what our dreams are telling us big time.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. Like this is a creepy thing that happens, right? Like I call it like creepiness because I think anytime you get those things that but bro, like this is what I don't understand. And I was thinking about this when I was on your show. Why do certain things creep people out while others think it's amazing, like it's happy? You understand what I'm saying? Like, like here lately, I feel like I might have initiated this a little bit, but I'm sure you feel that way when you talk about something and you hear everybody talking about it. You're like, what? But it's kind of like that. I think we're all on just the same frequency sometimes. But for instance, sleep paralysis, heavy topic lately. It's been talked about a lot lately. Mm-hmm. When I get sleep paralysis, though, I get happy because I'm like, oh my God, I'm awake and my body's asleep. Like I'm starting to vibrate. I might get to experience that thing that I experienced that one time. Right. So I get,
Joe, I might get excited now if I experience that too, because back whenever I was having sleep paralysis, I had zero understanding of what was happening. This was long before Forbidden Knowledge News. This was years ago. I was in my 20s going through a bad situation, and it was terrifying for me. I had no idea, but now I have an understanding that the astral realm is connected somehow to what we're experiencing during sleep paralysis, that it is a precursor to us being able to exit our body. So now having an understanding of that, and, whenever I had sleep paralysis before, there were creepy shadow people walking around in the next room. I could see them out the corner of my eye, but I couldn't move. And they had all these creepy noises occurring.
Really?
And now I have an understanding. Yeah, man. I was frozen. It seemed like they had a shadow people party in the next room going on whenever I was having people just walking around, shadows. And this banging noise would get louder and louder, and it would be right above me until I just made myself snap out and I'd jump out and be like, what the hell was that? And that happened for the longest time until I got finished with that divorce that I was going through at the time. I was in a bad state of mind. But once I was done with that, it never happened again. I never experienced that again. But the understanding that I have now is that those shadow entities and everything that was happening was probably part of me almost exiting my body and experiencing the astral realm. Those shadow entities may have been part of that other realm that I was just on the cusp of entering,
Yeah, dude, exactly. Yeah. And I don't think it's I think a lot of activity that happens, and people may not agree with me about this, but I think a lot of activity that happens, I think we cause it. In a sense, like we don't know our own power and our own vibrations, and we can cause things to happen and not think. And it's like there's something about us that thinks it's something else, and fear has a way of compounding on itself. And I've played a lot in my life with fear. I know all about it, and I know what can happen, and I know what it does. But we can take that same energy and transfer it into something great. So, bro, when I had that first out of body experience, I went through sleep paralysis. I went through certain things. I peeled myself out, and I can't remember a time when I was happier. I mean, I know I know that sounds bad, right? But
no, that's awesome. I would probably, if I had that understanding now, I'd probably be ecstatic as well.
Yeah, I can't remember. I was so happy that it happened. And I'd been practicing trying to fly and all kinds of stuff. But I don't know. I think perception is a very powerful thing. A very, very powerful thing, actually.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's so weird. The one I've been having a recurring dream since childhood, and I'm trying to really, understand what it means. It's always me starting out on a beach, and then I get on a plane, but I'm not, once I'm on the plane, the plane disappears and I'm just flying through the sky. And I've had this dreams. Yeah, man, it's crazy. And I've had this dream since childhood. But in childhood, it used to be somewhat lucid, and I used to be able to control where I was flying and stuff. It used to be like this cool video game, but I lost that ability a long time ago. And like I said, I'm lucky if I can remember my dreams, but that's just a weird one that's always reoccurring.
Planes. Here's the thing: planes, snakes, teeth. Like I always have that one where like, oh, my teeth are missing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it feels so real, right? So I think that, and there's other dreams that I won't say on the air, but they're quite embarrassing. I think we all have that kind of naked dream sometimes too, you know? And so I believe that there is a common theme amongst the collective for sure. But when it comes to what I find fascinating about your story is, when it comes to like what we consider our guides, they're just different things to different people. I mean, Terrence McKenna had machine elves, and then so everybody goes out and tries to like hook up with these machine elves, and some people say they did or didn't. Yeah, like it would be the same thing, right? If you went out and said, "Well, I met these like frog-like beings," well, now we start to believe that everything in these realms are frog-like beings. I think it's way more complicated than all of that, honestly.
Yeah, man. Now, I want to actually get your thoughts on this. I've had some guests that specialize in sleep paralysis. They write books. They've written books about it. Vicky Joy Anderson is one, and she believes that this is an evolving phenomenon. That's the first interesting part about that. I'll get to that in a second. But she believes that there are entities that exist in these astral realms that have easier access to us whenever we're sleeping, whenever we're in the dream state, and they have predatory sexual entities out there that feed on our sexual energy while we sleep.
Yeah.
And this reminds me of a recent dream that I had, and it was so real. It was so interesting that I was walking through the woods, and this like witch came out of a tree and tried to seduce me.
What?
And yes, and it was like kind of erotic at first, and I was like kind of turned on, but then she started morphing into this evil thing, and it seemed like she was just trying to siphon my sexual energy. And when I woke up, it was I felt like drained. I felt sick almost, and it was very, very discombobulated. It was very interesting. But according to people like Vicky Joy Anderson, that there are these entities that are out there existing in these astral realms that can attach to us in our dreams and siphon our energy and siphon our sexual energy. And that's where some of these like nocturnal ejaculations and things like this occur, is when these entities are interacting with us. What do you think about that, man?
Look, that stuff only happened to me, oddly. I've had people call in the show and tell me the same thing, right? Like, and it takes a lot for people to admit that, right? Because it's a scary thing, but I think it's kind of real, because when I was a kid, this sounds really bad, but when I was a kid, this happened to me when I was a kid. Okay, I haven't had anything like that happen to me that I can remember since I was an adult, but especially since I got into ceremonial magic, because there's so much protective stuff that you do in that it can't really happen. But like, look, if you listen to Robert Monroe's stuff, there is something to it. I think there's definitely something to it, for sure.
Yeah, man. And the second interesting part about the sleep paralysis thing is that she believes it's an evolving phenomenon that people are having different types of sleep paralysis experiences. It used to be things like succubi, incubi, demonic entities, shadow people, and now it's morphed into androids and technological entities and machine elves and things like that. And she's getting more and more reports of people who are having these sleep paralysis, but with technological entities either trying to contact them or causing fear or something like that. And the most interesting thing she said is she's done her own experiments with this because she has ongoing sleep paralysis. And she's tried experiments with or without a sleep mask, just a pure black sleep mask. There are nights when she doesn't wear the sleep mask where she had these vivid dreams and experiencing these technological entities and this matrix-like background. And then she'll put the sleep mask on and try it again the next night. And this is so interesting. She will see an outline of the mask, but behind it, she can still see the dream occurring with these entities and the matrix background and all this stuff. And it's a recurring dream, but it's behind her sleep mask, like some kind of projection going on to her consciousness. And like her eyes or some sort of consciousness projector that can be blocked off in some ways that can block off some of the images that are being projected to you. That's and I thought that was so interesting and so weird, especially, the part that we could have, something being beamed into our consciousness. And she also believes that if that's the case, it could also be infiltrated either technologically or by nefarious entities.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
We got to get into that too. Like, we're at the top of the hour when we come back here. I'm with Chris Mathieu from Forbidden Knowledge .news. It's funny that you say that because we just had Snick Rays on, which is a friend of mine, who, confirms what you're saying. He had a dream about this AI robot girlfriend with translucent skin. So I don't know. Maybe we're creating it too. So I don't know. We'll be right back. Stay with us. An ordinary night here on the Fringe FM and Lighting the Void if we didn't have a little gunship playing. Fringe.fm is the radio station that we are on. LightingTheVoid.com is a podcast. If you want to become a Deep Void member or check out any of my guided or voice-guided astral meditations and get all that stuff at joeroop.com. You also get access to commercial-free archives, extra content, stuff like that. Tonight our guest is Chris Mathieu from Forbidden Knowledge .news. And these are always real interesting conversations. And I think it's because we're kind of on the same vibration. I know you said you started this thing not too long after I did, man, and you kind of took off doing what you were doing. So I kind of think we've always kind of been on the same vibration.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Your show was a huge influence on me. And I think I even sent you a message after I had my experience because it was for the first experience I ever had with meeting my spirit guides. One of the entities I communicated with had a voice that sounded almost exactly like yours in my subconscious. So
that's creepy.
Man, it made an immediate connection to you. So
that's cool. Creepy. Well, at the time, I don't know. I don't know. I think there was a lot of crazy vibratory stuff going on, but before, by the way, the phone lines are open if you want to call in and chime in on the conversation. If you've had any these entities that he's talking about, the sexual thing especially, I know that's hard to talk about, but I honestly think that's happened to everybody at some point in time. Some being comes along in the dream world or astral realm and messes with you in that sense. And it's you just get, how do I say this? It's not like rape, but it kind of is. You get taken advantage of in the dream world in the most messed up sense of the word, and you don't even know what happened, right? You just don't know, what the hell was that about? And see, that happened to me when I was a child, and it freaked me out enough. I don't think I was little. I was 12 or something, but it freaked me out enough that I was doing everything in my power to make sure that didn't happen again, so... we've had people on the show that have talked about this before, even octopuses. It's a weird thing, bro. It really is.
Yeah, and I'm sure it could cause major trauma for younger people that are having these dreams that don't understand what's happening, and especially if it's like an ongoing thing. I know it was traumatic for me when the witch hag that I was talking about earlier in the show tried to molest me. She was kind of hot at first, and then she turned into this old demonic hag. So that was not cool.
So she had some kind of enchantment spell going on.
Yeah, something like that. But when I woke up, I felt really nasty and just like something had drained me of my energy. And it was very, very strange, discombobulating feeling. But it was interesting what you were saying about us creating these things. Maybe it is a collective creation of of our own, that we're creating these entities that we're interacting with in these astral realms. I know that our thoughts are very powerful, and I do believe collectively, if we give something enough power, that it can manifest in a collective manner to multiple people's consciousness in these astral forms. And maybe what we're dealing with is just collective thought forms, but I believe that there's probably other, I think there may be like baseline energies or intelligences that might even connect them or align themselves with our thought forms as we put the energy out there. I don't know. It's interesting to think about, though.
Well, why is everybody, like you say, man, why is everybody having dreams about tech and AI now?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like an evolving phenomenon, just kind of like the UFO thing. I was talking with Walter Bosley about this earlier. UFO phenomena has evolved seemingly with our technological innovations as well. Like used to be airships and then saucers and then plasma orbs. Now we have the tic tacs and triangles and things like that. So is it just this phenomena is morphing with our collective and becoming different things as we collectively understand it? I had Ryan Burns, who's a Skinwalker Ranch researcher, say that aerospace companies go out there to research the high strangeness stuff that's going on out there, and they can't keep up. It's like it's always 5 to 10 steps ahead of them. It will create things that they don't understand. It will mimic their technology. It will interact with them in ways that it's like a trickster intelligence, and it will mimic some of their most advanced technological inventions that they're putting out there. Say like they have a new jet that the military industrial complex out there is testing or working on. Well, it's been reported that the phenomenon will mimic this new piece of technology, whether it's a plane or some kind of military technology, but it will not just mimic the technology, it will one up it and do something that it is beyond its capabilities and show that, yeah, we can do this too, but we're always going to be better than you're doing it. And it has this trickster mentality where it's like we're not supposed to understand what the hell is going on here. And I don't think we are, man. I think there's levels to our reality that we're really not supposed to understand. And if we get too close, it's going to do things to get us thinking in different ways or maybe push us off the path. I don't know. I think it's a very interesting thing with what's occurring, especially in places like Skinwalker Ranch where we're able to study that stuff.
That's interesting, man. If you consider the concept like space, it's kind of like Stanley Kubrick's A Space Oddity, right? So we feel like space is this thing that's outside of there, but it could directly be connected to consciousness in a sense that
yes.
We're creating stuff that actually shows up in space that we think is like physical space, but really it could be that the Earth is the only thing that has a density enough inside of consciousness to make it even seem like there's anything outside of like this astral consciousness, and that's what space really is. I don't know.
Yeah, man. I love that. And I've been thinking about that same thing too. If you look at what our ancient Egyptian ancestors were trying to show us through the carvings and the hieroglyphics, the scarab beetle, the brain, all the symbolism of what the brain are. They had an amazing understanding of the afterlife and the workings of the human brain, and the symbolism that they carved, like a doorway to nowhere with two ears on the side of the door. What does that represent? The kingdom of heaven within. I mean, that there's clues everywhere that I believe that what we understand as space is not in the stars. I'm not a flat earther. I'm more of a realm simulation holographic reality type type guy that's looking into those areas. But I take it all under consideration. Yeah, we could be a spinning ball planet that that strictly goes off of the narrative that we've been fed by NASA and our mainstream science. But I think it's much more complex. I think it's something we can never understand. I think there's layers to our reality. And yes, I think that beyond our physical reality, everything that we understand as non-physical, as our metaphysical or spiritual reality or the afterlife, is all within. It's all within ourselves, within our consciousness. That's where the rest of the universe is. And I think all of our inside of our collective consciousness is connected with each other. And it's like this network of energy that forms the universe, that forms this one collective life consciousness that we might consider source, that's all integrated into our reality. But the only way to access that is going within through meditation, having these profound spiritual experiences, astral experiences, dream states, things like that. Probably not a tin can going towards out of the atmosphere.
Some of the deepest, like to what you're saying, some of the deepest occultists that I've talked to or read about, they spend most of their time in the astral realm. And when they do, they go to these different planets, different star systems and stuff, and they end up like facing big things like entities or angelic doorways or just all kinds of just crazy stuff that if you were listening to them, you would swear it was real, right? Like it was real. But as we go out in space, it's just like gas, and that's what science tells us.
Maybe it's
like
possible.
Gas.
Maybe it is like Interstellar showed us. Maybe it is like that. Maybe we can get to the stars, and if we travel far enough out into the universe, we'll hit another galaxy where there contains other life forms and different universes. But what if it is actually just all right here beyond the spectrum of our vision?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you remember Interstellar, where he ends up in the chick's closet somehow, like trapped in this microscopic level
what did he call
universe.
The tetrac, I forget what he called it.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember what he called it. But what if that's what it is? Like space can be folded in on itself, and all these other universes are right here surrounding us at all times, just beyond the spectrum of our own perception. And accessing them is, we can go out to outer space and travel through for billions and billions of miles, and we'd have to have this super high tech technology to do it and rocketry. But what if there's an easier way to do it, through these more spiritual or what we understand as metaphysical means, but it's just a form of spiritual technology, really.
Yeah, he's talking to this. I see there 615. He's talking to this Tetra, he's talking to this AI robot the whole time that's talking to him while he's stuck in this Tetra thing, trying to get a hold of his daughter. And it's exactly like it would be if you were in a dream screaming at somebody trying to get their attention, but they can't hear you.
Right.
Yeah, man. It's so crazy. 615 area code, you're on the air with Chris Mathieu. Who are you speaking with? 615. Hold on. Let me fix this because I don't have it set up correctly. I have to do this every show and I forget. There's like 12 things I got to do and I don't ever do them all correct in order. And you guys, you have to just bear with me here. But you know what I'm talking about. There you go. Should be 615. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, man. What's up? It's Jonathan.
What's up, Jonathan? John.
Hey, not much. I've just been tuning into the show here and there. And this guest that you have on, his name's Chris, right?
Yeah, Chris Mathieu.
Yes.
Yep.
What's up, Chris? I tuned in for just a second, and I heard you talking about a mushroom a mushroom experience, and I was curious if you have any like rituals that you do before you go on a journey like that, and how much do you take?
100%, man. I have to do my ritual every time. I have to pray for protection and really align myself, ground myself, and asking for protection and gratitude is the main thing for me before I initiate anything. And I do have a certain way that I do things and a certain prayer that I say before. But I started out taking about 2.5 to 3 grams, and it graduated to about 5 gram doses every time. And I haven't done them in a while. I haven't done them in a few months, and I really don't go looking for them anymore. It's one of those synchronistic things that I was talking about earlier. They really come to me whenever it's necessary, or the universe feels it's necessary for me to go on one of these journeys. I've done so much work with magic mushrooms, so much of my own psychotherapy. I've gotten more accomplished within a couple of years of working with magic mushrooms than I believe I could have done with years of therapy, and just accomplished so much with this and opened up new spiritual doors with it. But yeah, I've usually lately done more heroic doses of about 5 grams, 6 grams or so.
Gotcha. For me, I took about 4 years away from the psychedelics, but I regularly smoke weed. And about 4 months ago, I got this chocolate bar in the mail with 3.5 grams in it. And I researched a little bit of stuff about what are the trippers doing these days? Because just 4 or 5 years is quite a long time. And within these 4 or 5 years, I feel like there's been a big jump with lots of people doing it more in a clinical setting. And
yeah.
I've watched a lot of videos about the way that they do things. So the way that I went about it was I wrote down as many as intentions as I could. I got some Palo Santo and some rose quartz, and I wrote down about 13 things, 12 or 13 things, and I had an amazing experience. I don't really want to get into detail that much about it, but I was just curious for someone like yourself who has been doing it for a very long time and is quite familiar with the 5 gram dose, because I'm thinking about doing that myself. Here I have three bars. So I'm
Jesus,
just trying to time up the right time. Yeah, I'm trying to time up the right time. It's just kind of making me a little bit nervous to make that step, to go past the 3.5 gram range, because that 3.5 grams, I don't know which kind of mushrooms are specifically within these, but I don't know if it was because I took such a long break, but it was heavy. And back in the day, I was doing anything. I would just take how much would make me get to that point to where I was feeling fantastic, and it kind of just.
What about everybody that's not on mushroom? John, did you sign up in the deep void recently? Was that you, John, that did that? On the
you sent me the link and I haven't.
Okay, I was just making sure, because there's another John in there. But I would say this: if you wanted to, if you really wanted to focus, because we're doing this middle pillar challenge till the 14th. It's not my business if you do mushrooms or not, or how you do it. Bro, I don't care, right? But I would come up with at least some type of protective or meditative thing that, if you planned on doing that, right? Each time. That's kind of why I do this stuff daily, because you don't ever know what's going to happen during the day. You don't know what's going to happen in your sleep, mushrooms or not.
Yeah. I think protection is essential. And even with protection, I've had I had that crazy experience, Joe, that I talked with you last time I was on, where I was doing a sort of a regression with my ex-girlfriend, and we were trying to locate childhood traumas. And we ended up being very successful with one. And unfortunately, attached to that childhood trauma, there was a negative spiritual attachment that didn't like that we were doing that. And it manifested itself in the form of a nasty demonic reptilian that took over my perception. And
Is that the know that you're being deceived?
yes,
story?
man. It took my ex-girlfriend turned into this reptilian demon and told me, I attached myself to you for a long time ago. I got you where you were. I helped you succeed, and you're trying to get rid of me. You don't love me anymore. You don't want me. And this was like this demon saying this that she shapeshifted into right in front of my face. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And yeah, it eventually led to this like exorcism type experience to where I had to start praying. And this voice came out of nowhere, said, "No, you're being deceived." And I puked up this literal black tar goo stuff. And my ex-girlfriend was in the other room in a meditative state, calling upon her guardian angels to help get rid of this demonic attachment. And it was a whole thing, man. It was a terrifying experience. But afterwards, I felt like I felt incredible. And like that, I was glad I went through that. But yes, you have to be very extremely careful with protection during those experiences.
That's the trippiest story I ever heard, man. That's one of the trippiest stories I've ever heard, honestly.
Yeah, it was pretty terrifying at the time. Like it took over my whole house turned into like this dungeon. Like, everything was different. They had mildew and mold all over the walls, and I'd look outside my window and the sky was blood red. Everything was different. And I had my girlfriend that shapeshifted. She even was taller. She was like 8 foot tall, this reptilian wearing her nightgown, chasing me around the house, asking me why I don't love it anymore and shit. And it turns out, from what I understand, this thing was that spirit attachment just trying to siphon as much fear off of me before we banished it as possible, because it knew it was on its way out. And,
well, it was probably playing with your fears and insecurities and stuff too,
For sure. 100%, man. Yeah, it was terrifying.
Yeah, so I bet what Jonathan's probably going to ask is, all right, so how many mushrooms did you do? Like, what was
during
the
that
dose?
experience, dude? It was only like 2.5 grams. No, that was a smaller.
Really?
It really doesn't have to be that much for these things to occur, man. You are opening yourself up to these other realms, even with a very small dose. I'd say even with a 1 or 2 grams, you're opening that doorway to this communication and to a new perception of things that you couldn't perceive before. So yeah, it was about 2.5 grams, and it wasn't really that much of a visual experience before that. I wasn't having, I never really had profound visual experiences where I see hallucinations. I get the tracers, I get the beautiful colors. It's more of a mental cerebral type of experience that I have. But this time, everything changed. It was the first time I've ever experienced anything like that.
One more thing I really wanted to ask you, have you ever had the feeling like you're being drained or like sucked? Like, because what made me back off from psychedelics for a long time was the last time I took a low dose of mushrooms. I was at a festival, and this random girl just walked up to me and my friends and goes, "Hey, I have some mushrooms for free." And I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to take some mushrooms. And I probably had like 2 or 3 caps, so like a very small dose. And like, it felt way stronger than it should have been. And I was sitting in this chair and watching some like music show. I was at a festival, and I felt like I was peeing and crapping at the same time, but I wasn't.
God.
Like, I kept on trying to check my freaking pants and see what the heck is going on, but there was nothing. And like, when I had my eyes closed, I could see like figures, like maybe 2 or 3 that like were just sitting around me, and they were like plugging some like stuff into my body. And then like, I felt like I was being drained, and it felt weird, but I just was like, okay, I'm just going to let this happen. like whatever, like.
That's weird, man. No, I've never had anything like that. I've always felt, for the most part, protected during these experiences because I'm usually in constant communication with my guides. And I think it was because I had stirred up whatever was attached to that childhood traumatic experience that's why that experience had occurred. But I 100% believe we're interacting with forces that we can't see whenever we are under the influence of some of these substances. I have another story. This was not me that this occurred. I had a guest. His name is Stephen Snyder. He's written a few books, and he was telling me about a psychedelic experience he had. And him, like myself, is never really like super hallucinogenic. He never sees things that aren't really there. But it was the tail end of his experience. It was like the last hour he was coming down. And I think it was a children's party or something. He was a children's birthday party, something he had to go to for some reason. And when he walked in, he noticed, he saw kids everywhere and parents, and they were all having fun. And it was kind of misty in the room. But that was because they had some kind of smoke thing going on for the kids, or they had something that was creating mist. But amongst the kids and the parents and the smoke mist, they had 7 or 8 foot tall gray aliens walking around and like examining the kids and the parents and seemingly doing some sorts of experiments.
Oh, no. See, no.
And they noticed him. They said it's like they looked at him and said, how the hell do you, like, we're communicating with him, like, how do you see us? You're not supposed to see us. You're not supposed to be here. And it freaked him out and he had to leave.
All right.
So there's something there, man.
I got some, dude, we're at the bottom of the hour, but I've definitely got some questions about that. Like, did you got more details about that? I mean, we got to go into the break.
I don't have many more, man. It was just a story he told me.
Oh, John, you can stay on the phone if you want, but we got to take a break. I want to keep talking about this because it's getting pretty interesting. I kind of want to do some mushrooms now. 1-800-588-0335. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Started talking about like your previous astral experiences, and then got into everybody's trips and with mushrooms and stuff. And honestly, I've just been sitting back and listening because it's pretty interesting. It kind of makes me want to do it. The last psychedelic I touched was DMT, and I don't even think I did that right, but that was freaky enough, honestly.
Yeah, DMT is a tough one, man. You gotta have some commitment for that, because it's probably not going to be that first hit or not even that second puff that gets you there. It's going to be that really big third puff that really pushes you out of your body. And I had a tough time. It took me a couple of times to really get there whenever I tried DMT, but I did. And that was a pretty profound experience. It was more of there was really no trials or tribulations or anxiety associated with it. I had a vision where I met a pharaoh where it was approaching me on some kind of river on this little boat, and it handed me an ankh. And then I kind of proceeded to come to after, about 10, 15 minutes. And it was an interesting experience, but I really didn't feel like I got the I don't know, there's some sort of therapeutic benefit that I get from the magic mushrooms that really have helped my development, my spiritual development, and the healing of childhood trauma, and a lot of just the baggage that I had to get rid of. I found that magic mushrooms were amazing for that.
Well, see, I feel like you guys are like salesmen for mushrooms now. Because it's worth.
I do not look.
No. Don't take that wrong. Because it's totally worth it. Like
it is. Like this is not for everyone. I'm sure there are people that would not benefit from psychedelics or magic mushrooms, and you have to be very careful and discerning and do your research and approach it with high levels of respect and regard, and know that this is a medicine. It's a spiritual medicine to help you evolve spiritually, mentally, and heal traumas. And it's like a therapeutic tool, and that's how I approach it. And many people don't. I used to approach it like a party thing whenever I was a teenager in my 20s, and a lot of people still do. but you have to approach it with respect, and it's not for everyone. I don't think it benefits everyone. But for me personally, it was incredibly beneficial.
Beneficial. It was beneficial.
Beneficial, yes.
Listen, man.
I had a bowl of beneficial after I ate some mushrooms.
So the last time I did mushrooms, I was like really had a big trip on mushrooms because I was so used this. I was younger, so I was going to rave parties doing acid all the time. And that's a whole other thing, man, because it's 12 to 14 hours in and you're laying in your bed watching stuff breathe going, oh, I think I'm stuck like this, you know? But the one time that I did it, I was sitting outside in the back porch of my friend's house, and I started looking at this big oak tree, and I just stared at it, and it turned into it just morphed into a big pile of lumber. And I was like... like a massive pile of lumber. And I just started laughing at it, and I continued to laugh at it for like 6 hours, you know? So I don't know. I think I got into this like dolphin state of laughing that just never went away, and it kind of freaked me out, you know?
Man, you know what's interesting about LSD versus magic mushrooms and Frankie Fearless. He's been on your show a few times.
Yeah, I like Frankie.
He's actually said this. He said that the consciousness of LSD versus mushrooms, the consciousness of mushrooms goes back to the beginning of time. Mushrooms can tell us things about our ancient past, about who we were, about anything in the universe since the beginning of time, because the spores have always been around. The consciousness of LSD can only take us back so far, can only have so much benefit for us, can only open up our perspective so much because it is limited and it has a consciousness, just like even though it's manufactured and it's not a natural psychedelic, it still has its own consciousness to it. And it only goes back to the days of its creation in the 1950s and 1960s. And the consciousness of LSD has no awareness of anything before that time. So when people are having these profound spiritual experiences on mushrooms where they're connecting with nature, they're connecting with everything, having visions of the ancient past and all this, most people on LSD aren't having those same profound spiritual type of experiences. They're more less organic, more materialistic, more energetic, and it's just a different type of focus for me, especially at least whenever I used LSD versus magic mushrooms. It was not a spiritual experience at all. It was just something more like it would open up my consciousness and change my perspective on things, but it didn't get me thinking in a spiritual mindset, if you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, are you totally sure about that? Because, well, what I mean is I'm getting some messages here, and it's like, so LSD, isn't it found on mold, on rye, like cut from rye fields? I mean, it's natural, right? Like,
no, the LSD is a complete compound that's been laboratory developed during MK Ultra experiments. It's a compound that is similar to the psilocybin, but it is not at all found naturally. There are certain molds that are found naturally that have psychedelic properties, but LSD is completely manufactured, and it has that manufactured feel to it as well. Whenever you're having the experience, at least for me, it does.
Okay, cool. What you're talking about now, Chris, it's so funny because I wanted to ask you if so the mushroom consciousness, that is something that I felt like I tapped into the very first time that I did it when I was 17 years old. But I didn't really know what to call it or like what it was, but like the visual that I saw was the Buddha. And there was like millions of them that were just like surrounding him. And when I would shut my eyes, I could see that. And my girlfriend at the time was seeing the exact same thing. And we both started to like cry. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing, right? But throughout the years, from hearing more and more people talk about it. I've been listening to a lot of Terrence McKenna, and I didn't really get what he was talking about for like years. I think now that like I'm about to be 28, that I've matured more, and a lot of his stuff resonates with me. Now, the question for you, when you get in that state, when you, what I'm trying to ask is, do you feel like the mushroom consciousness opens up a door to be able to communicate with your guides better? Or do you think that communicating with your guides through the mushrooms is just a part of the mushroom consciousness? Or do you
that's
think
an
that
interesting question.
separate?
Well, the mushroom consciousness, there's different perspectives on this. Some believe that what we're communicating with is just the spirit of the mushroom, and it has this universal wisdom that's connected to everyone and everything, and that's how it has all this knowledge and insight to give us. But for me, the information I was given during these communications pointed to these were my spiritual ancestors, that they were connected to me and not just a spirit of the fungus. But I guess it's really all about perspective. I mean, yes, it was the mushroom that caused the experience, and I do believe that plant medicine has its own consciousness. I believe that marijuana has its own consciousness. I believe that mushrooms do, ayahuasca do. People report having contact and conversations with an entity that is a motherly, loving entity that they call Mother Ayahuasca, that gives them information and heals them and does all these wonderful things during the influence. But I believe the same thing for mushrooms, that there is a consciousness associated with it, that the mushroom consciousness can probably communicate with us aside from our spirit guides. And I do believe that they facilitated an easier and more powerful connection for me to talk to and communicate with my guides. But yeah, man, I think that there's definitely a consciousness to all of it. And I had a guest recently that says, if you do not treat the consciousness, you don't respect the consciousness of the plant medicine, you abuse it, say you're addicted to some of these substances or you're overusing it, the consciousness can turn against you, and it can get dark because it does, it's trying to show you that you're using these things the wrong way. So you'll start having bad experiences with it. And I believe that's what's happening with the connection to the consciousness.
Maybe the mushroom spirit is so good at knowing what's best for you to take away from the experience that you are having, that it has you believe that you are communicating with the guides because the spirit knew that was the best way for you to understand what it wanted to tell you. Maybe. But I
consider that too.
I struggle with is this coming from my own mind, or is this being projected to me and a lot of different ways, not just when I trip, but when I do get that feeling of it being a negative thing, I just cast it out, right? So I think that the challenging trips that some folks have and different things like that, I just don't think that I don't think that when you partake, that it's going to have you have an experience that is not right for you. It's too intelligent, too smart, and too old. It's so old that it's going to give you the experience that you're supposed to have.
Yes, not necessarily the experience you're looking for. And that's exactly right. I remember whenever I first started going on these vision quests and using the mushrooms for therapeutic purposes, I would have an intention like, I want to heal this childhood trauma, or I want to work on this issue that's bogging me down. Well, it doesn't work like that. The mushroom will pick what is necessary to work on and what is pertinent for you to experience during that experience. And it's not, you can't control the trip in any way. There's no way of doing that. And it will show you what you're supposed to see during that experience. For me, it was like, not only did I have the communication with my spirit guides, but it was like a constant therapist that would know the most pertinent things I had to work on, and it would pull it out from my deep subconscious and shove it in my face and force me to look at it and remember it and face it and work on it. And I would not have a good trip or a fulfilling or have a beautiful light experience until I faced those demons, until I experienced it. It's like a hero's journey every time. I would go into an experience with, eventually I would have to have no expectations and just ask for protection, and whatever it was going to show me, it was going to show me. Yeah. And then eventually that's the best way that I learned to go into those experiences, is not having any expectations and taking whatever the experience was going to show me as it came and just rolling with it. And it wouldn't be like it might get terrifying at times. It might get very hard and difficult to face some of the things that it's trying to show you. Some of these things you don't want to hear, some of these things you've buried for the longest time, and it's difficult. But once you actually face it and process it and get past it, however you do that during that experience, afterwards, it's like amazing. It's like heaven. It's like the most blissful experience ever. And it's like rewarding you for going through that. And that's what it was like for me every time.
Well, we only got a few minutes left in the broadcast, so I want to thank you for calling, Jonathan. It made it interesting, brother. So
yeah,
as always,
Jonathan.
Bro, call in anytime, bro.
Chris, thank you, Joe, and you guys have a wonderful night. Okay.
You too.
You too.
Well, brother, this is every time I have you on here, it turns into some crazy. I don't want to call it crazy, all right? Because that's a bad thing. Really interesting conversations.
Oh yeah, fun stuff, man.
Yeah, that makes me think about a lot of different things. Makes me question some things. Makes me think about a lot of things too.
That's what I love about what I do, man. Every day I get to hear the weirdest, strangest things and theories and learn from the most brilliant teachers on the planet about different topics. And this is my job every day, is to go to school of the universe, to go to consciousness school every day, sit here for a couple of hours and then just absorb some of the craziest, wildest, and most interesting things from some of the most craziest, wildest, and interesting people. So I'm blessed, man. It's a great being able to do this.
Yeah, it is. I'm totally with you on that. Even though, I don't, maybe one day we'll become millionaires, maybe not. But I got to tell you, it doesn't matter. Like, just the payoff is worth it. Just being able to do this is worth it. So you want to give out, because we only got like a couple of minutes here left, you want to give out everybody your links and all that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks again so much for having me on, Joe. Always a blast. You can find all our content on forbiddenknowledge.news. That is the website, forbiddenknowledge.news. Our premium stuff, the stuff you can't get anywhere else, is on Rockfin. We put at least 1 or 2 premium episodes a week up with our other content, rockfin.com/FKN+. We're always available on all podcast platforms. We finally got booted from YouTube, so no longer on there, but we are on Rumble, and we're on Odyssey. So that is where you get us. And also, if you would like to help with a donation for the documentary, go to supportfkn.com. You can make a donation there. And if you'd like to help in any other way, email me, forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com.
Every time I hear that FKN, I'm thinking something.
Fuck it,
yeah, dude, I know you did that on purpose, brother. That's funny.
Yeah.
You know, that's definitely
Actually,
funny.
I didn't do it on purpose. It just kind of turned out that way. I started doing it, and I'm like, yeah, man, that looks like that. So.
Yeah. It's fucking .news, right? Yeah. So, all right. Well, we're going to get out of here. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll be back tomorrow night. I'm pretty sure Anthony Tyler is going to come on. And then Thursday, we'll have Melanie Grubbs back. Stay tuned right here. Keep it right here on the Fringe FM. And go check out all of Chris's stuff. Go check out the new shop at the Fringe FM. And you can hit me up at contact@lightingthevoid.com or producer@fringe.fm. Good night, y'all. Sweet dreams. All right. I'm going to get out of here, brother. Peace. Yeah, it's cool. Later. I got you.